To practice your English speaking, look at these 10 pictures which tell the story of Joan of Arc. Think about each picture in your mind and then listen to the story as I tell you in this video. Already 2 videos are there on Saint Joan, the same story which was dramatized by the great dramatist George Bernard Shaw. Let us now begin the story. Joan of Arc is considered a patron saint of France because she helped to get France away from the battle with Britain during the 100 Years' War. But Joan was not a soldier's daughter. She was a peasant girl. Her father was a peasant farmer in Domremy. Jacques and Isabelle were her parents. She had 3 brothers and a sister. In her childhood, she lived a very ordinary life. Since she was a farm girl, a peasant girl, she never went to school, so she did not become literate. She was illiterate, but she could take care of the farm animals, the sheep and cows, etc. She could help in all the farm work which was there. Her mother was very religious and therefore Joan learnt to pray and to talk to God right from her childhood. In those days, the Prince of France did not have a kingdom. He could not become the king because France was at a war with England, and this is called the famous 100 Years' War. But people in Domremy, where Joan was born, were the supporters of the French prince. Joan regularly spent time in the open fields, and there she felt as though she could hear the voice of God in the form of all the saints and angels. Later, she said that these were the visions which she had. Joan was a very pure soul, and she was also very religious. Therefore, she thought that God was giving her a message. By the time she reached her teen age, she felt that God was telling her through all the saints and angels that she should fight for France and she should make the prince the king of France. This is the message she got from her visions. So these visions became very important for Joan, and Joan decided that she must act on these visions. So she wanted to go and fight for France. To join the war as a soldier, which is what she had heard from her visions, she needed the permission of the prince. She also needed the armor which soldiers wear. You know, it's a metal dress called armor. She needed weapons. She needed a horse. All these things she needed. So she started from her village and went up to a place where the prince was hiding with his courtiers. There was no place for them to go to. And to this prince, Joan said that she would like to be a soldier. At first, nobody believed her because what will a farmer's daughter know about fighting? But Joan was very confident. She said that God has told me to go and fight for France. God has told me that I can get independence for France. She mentioned all the saints and all the voices and visions. The prince, who had no hope of ever becoming a king, thought there is no harm in listening to this girl. Therefore, he said, "Okay, I give you permission." Then Joan decided that she would become the leader, the general of the soldiers. So you can see that in the picture, she is now fully in her war armor with her weapons, and of course, horse is not visible here. She was all ready now to start the battle. She went to the place where the problem was and started participating in this war, the 100 Years' War. The French soldiers were struggling at a place called Orleans. There the wind was not favorable for the tide to turn so that the soldiers could go and attack the British. They had a young soldier as a leader of this group who was waiting for the tide to turn and go and fight. Joan meets the general and tells him that the prince has sent me to fight this battle and God has given me the permission to do it. This young man, who was a very brave soldier, was also convinced, like the prince. He also felt that this girl has some power. She will be able to do what she says. So she became a part of the soldiers, and she was such a natural soldier that everybody started respecting her. As soon as she came, there was great hope, and they could march forward, they could move forward, attack and win. This decisive battle of Orleans was very important in the whole history of this time. We are talking about a history which is 600 years old. And you can imagine that women would not be fighting in the battlefield at this time. So Joan is a great heroine of that time. Joan is venerated even today. And that is because here was a young girl who came into the battlefield without any preparation. She put her faith into God and she won this battle, which was such an important part of the war. After this great victory, part of France was independent. So in the Reims Cathedral, Joan arranged for the coronation of the king. The Prince of France now became the famous King Charles VII. You can read about King Charles VII, but the role of Joan of Arc in making him the king is the story here. So this young girl came with a message. She came to fight the battle. She got all permissions and she won the Battle of Orleans, after which the prince could be crowned as the king. Here you see in the picture the king and Joan. Joan had only one desire after this. She said, if we get Paris, Paris is the capital, if we can conquer Paris, then I will happily go back to my own village and again look after my sheep and live an ordinary life. But before that, I want to conquer Paris. I want to give Paris to my king. Joan became very popular, and everybody was giving more importance to Joan than either to the church or the state. Everybody thought Joan was God, that she was the messenger of God. Therefore, they could not pay attention to anybody else, either the church fathers or the rulers of the country. Everybody felt threatened. Therefore, they said that it is not safe to allow Joan to continue to live. We must make a plan so that we can either imprison her or kill her. The king said, it is not possible to go to France, so let us stop here. Now I have become the king, so there is no problem now. Please stop fighting. Please stop the battle, the war. Let me be happy with whatever I have. Now look at this picture carefully. Compare it to the earlier pictures of Joan and see how Joan is sitting here with a frightened expression, because she's a young girl. She's still in her teens. She hasn't even crossed her 19th year. And as in politics, there is always some intrigue. There is always some planning and plotting to destroy good people. Everybody, as I told you, felt threatened. So the Burgundians came and captured Joan when she was still trying to fight some more. They sold her to the British because the British hated her. She was taking away the power from the British. The British thought they would win the war, the 100 Years' War. But she had made Charles the King of France. So they were very angry with her. But they felt that if they killed Joan, she would become a martyr. She would become a great heroine, and that would harm the British. The British would get a bad reputation if they killed Joan. Therefore, they made a plot. They said, we cannot kill Joan. Instead, we should tell the church to do something. In those days, the Roman Catholic Church was more powerful than any king or any state. The church has something called Inquisition. Inquisition is the religious court. Just like we have courts, the High Court, Supreme Court, like that religious court, the court of the church was the Inquisition. So here you see Joan is sitting in front of the Inquisition because the Britishers give her to the church. They say, you try your own prisoner. She is French, you are French. Please try and see. The court tells Joan that you have been telling lies about God. It is the devil who is there inside you. So now you say, sorry, I never heard the voice of God or angels or saints. It is the devil's voice that I heard. This is called recantation. You withdraw, you recant. So she's a young girl, you know. She gets frightened. She says, okay, if I recant, will you allow me to go back to my village, to live in my parents' house? They said, oh no, we cannot allow that. We will put you in prison for the rest of your life. Joan says, suppose I don't recant? They say, then we will burn you at the stakes. You are a heretic. Heretic is a person who has committed a religious crime. So we will burn you. In those days, that was the punishment. Not, putting you in the gallows, but in burning in the stakes. So Joan chooses that. Unfortunately, this little girl is trying to save her own country, but is being punished for that. In this picture, you see that terrible scene of young Joan being burnt at the stakes. You can see the fire. You can see how people are looking at her cruelly. They don't appreciate what she has done for their country. She said that she should drive away the enemy and give the country to her own people. But nobody understood this. The church fathers proved that she was a very bad girl and she deserved to die. Joan chooses to die, and here you see that she is being burnt. The entire body will burn little by little. It is a very painful death which this young girl is being faced with. Now look at this picture, which is a stained glass frame of Joan after she was declared innocent. Within 20 years of her burning, the church which gave her the punishment withdraws its verdict. They say that Joan was not at fault. There was no mistake in Joan. Therefore, we should not have punished her. We should not have killed her. But unfortunately, Joan is not alive at this time. At this point, she becomes a heroine. Many legends, many stories start circulating about Joan. But it took the church 500 years to realize that she should be canonized. Canonization is the process of the Roman Catholic Church by which a person is declared as a saint. So, in 1920, Joan was declared as Saint Joan, and that is the stained glass which you see here. It is on this occasion that the famous English dramatist George Bernard Shaw wrote his play. He did not call the play Joan of Arc. He wanted to show that she's been canonized. So he called the play Saint Joan. I have prepared 2 videos on Saint Joan right at the beginning when I started this channel. It will be very helpful for both language and literature learners. Please watch those 2 videos whose link is given in the description box. So here, after 500 years, Joan is recognized as a saint, and in France, she is considered, as I told you, the patron saint of France, because it was for France that she gave up her life. Look at this picture carefully. It is the cover page of George Bernard Shaw's famous 20th century drama, Saint Joan. Here you can see Joan riding a horse, Joan in full battle preparation, going forward to fight for the freedom of France. In the background, you can see the buildings which were there at that time. 500 years ago or 600 from now, 600 years ago, this time was called the Middle Ages. So the architecture of the Middle Ages also you see in the picture. When you see the picture carefully, you can improve your speaking, because by describing the picture itself, you get a great benefit. Shaw writes this important play because he wanted people in the 20th century who had no faith in religion or miracles, who thought science was God, should realize that sainthood is genius. Sainthood is not something magical. It is a person who's a genius. So this young girl was a genius because she had ideas about how to fight a battle, how to win a war, how to plan strategy, all this in her teen age. Nobody taught her. She was self-taught. All this inspired Shaw, and therefore he wanted the people to see it. He thought that people would worry why he had not called the play Joan of Arc, why he had called Saint Joan. But he was doing it in order to get a response from his audience, in order to make the audience start thinking about religion. Shaw comes from Ireland, which is a Roman Catholic country. Therefore, you can imagine that there are many levels of meaning in this drama, which already I have done 2 videos. And every one of you can see those 2 videos. There are many changes which Shaw makes, but the basic history of Saint Joan's story, which I told you just now, is all used in the play, which begins with Joan's attempt to become a soldier. Nothing about her childhood, etc., is there in the play. Look carefully at this picture. This is 20 years later, when everybody realized that they had punished Joan wrongly. Shaw uses this incident to make a part of his play where he tells us that the king is dreaming. You can see the king is sitting in the picture and the king is dreaming. The vision of Saint Joan appears in front. Now, she's not a saint at that time, of course. Young Joan appears in front of him. Joan says, "Should I come back? If you think I'm not guilty, I can come back and help you some more." The king says, "No, no, no, we don't want you." And all the people who punished her, the Britishers, the church people, the people who caught her, all these people also who might be dead by now, come and give their, apologies by saying, "Sorry, we killed you. We didn't have any enmity towards you, but still we killed you because we could not allow a genius to survive." So Shaw is concluding by saying that it is very difficult for genius to live in this world. People think that they are monsters, and that is how the story of Joan ends. Now use this story to practice your English. 1. Look at each picture and visualize in your mind what else you can say. I've given you the story in brief. About each picture, if you can speak for 10 minutes, that will be excellent practice for you. And then the 2 videos which I have given you on the literary aspect, and that is Bernard Shaw's Saint Joan, that you watch and speak about that also. For students of literature who have it as a part of their exam, those 2 videos will be very helpful because I have discussed in great detail many aspects of the play in 2 parts. Watch the videos and this one many times if you need. Use it for your practice and then say in the comment box how you liked it, what you learned from it, how much you improved from this video. Don't just put hearts or don't put good morning or thank you. Write 2-3 sentences, even if there are, mistakes in those sentences. It is a beginning. At the beginning, you make mistakes. So all the best for learning English, for learning English literature, and thank you.